Hey everybody, it's Dr. Schulman, and we're doing a summative assessment. So the difference between formative and summative assessment is after students have learned a lot. So this is typically thought of as specific tests like quiz, an exam, a practice exam, or a reflection. So there's other ways to summatively assess, but in the sense that I'm assuming that they're talking about pen and paper, and we'll talk about alternative ones when we get there. So I'm sharing my screen, and we're going to go over here. We are in Math for Teachers 1 and 2, and we're up to summative assessments. So what is it after a week, a unit, or a year, assessing how much your students have learned throughout a length of time? So what are some good ways to do it? So here's some vocabulary quizzes. I've made tons of these. Here's just a basic example. They've been learning this vocabulary throughout the week, and at the end of the week, they just have to combine it. Exponent, square root, radical, cube root, nth root. And it's just a little matching quiz at the end of the week with random vocabulary I chose. So if you want 2 full sets of vocabulary quizzes, here's access to this drive where I've got tons and tons of vocab quizzes. Tons of them. Vocab lists, all these pretty vocab lists. These are how they look during the week. And then at the bottom are all the matching quizzes. So now there's 2 folders of these. These are all ones that I've made. Obviously, I don't know that the other one's the same, just a different year. But this one is somebody, a different school made, and it has all pictures. So they do, like, I don't really use pictures for mine, but all of their vocab quizzes have pictures and pretty stuff here. So feel free to borrow or steal whatever ones you want. I've made a couple of these, so some of these are mine that are put in, which is cool. But yeah, so that's one way to do it. At the end of the week, see how many words they learned. So here is a quiz. These are 3 examples of quizzes at the end of the week, 1 that I didn't make and 2 that I made. So here's for a triangle quiz, a basic triangle quiz. This is a quiz that I put together. They had to determine sine, cosine, and tangent, and it's just to write triangles with, and that's it, Notice that I tried to do some multiple choice, some fill in. And for quizzes, I usually make them shorter. Notice it's only 9 questions. It's shorter, and it's fill in. Another quiz that I made looks a little bit different. So this one is a multiple choice quiz that I made, and you just circle the right answer, and it just helps students get ready for, it's like the same quiz that I just showed you, but a multiple choice version. It's got some radians in it, which is cool. And then lastly, a couple of curves. And there's the answer key. So really simple multiple choice. So you can do a fill-in, you could do multiple choice. This is one that Patterson made. Obviously, he's the gold standard for all things geometry in my mind, but this is one of his multiple choice quizzes. I chose this one to show you because we've been doing so much about isometry, but this is just dilation, and so it's just multiplying. So dilation on a line. So if you've never done these are really fun. I've showed you dilation in 2 dimensions. I might as well show you one of these because this stuff is interesting. And the answers obviously are at the bottom. But basically, if you want to dilate on a line, so if I want to dilate on a line, and if I'm starting at H, this is where we start. So we're starting at H. We're going for its positive direction. So we want to go 4 bigger from B. So how big is this? It's 1. In this direction, we want to go 4 more. So the first one's F. Ta-da. All right, let's try another one. We want to dilate on a line. So this is dilation in 1 dimension. So we start at C and we're ending at F. But we're going to go half as big. So if F is 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, we want O. All right, let's do one more of these just for fun. Oh, they've got multiple choice, which is nice on the bottom. I did not notice that. Let's do this one. So we're starting at H. We're going to G, so that's 1. But we want to go 2 more in the other direction. So 1 times 2 is 1, 2. So this one's also O. So that's how you can dilate in 1 dimension, which is cool. Some other questions, similarity, pictures, really long. There's some free response. This could be a whole test in my opinion, but this is just a Patterson level quiz. This stuff is hard. All right, so let's keep on going. So those were some vocab quizzes. These are weekly quizzes. So what do you do before a test? So right, I have algebra and geometry. Notice that I have English as well as Spanish. Oh, this one's just in English. Is this the Spanish one? I try to always do Spanish versions of all my stuff. So here's a practice test, an algebra practice test, with radicals. So simplifying, this is 64 x cubed y cubed. This is e to the 10th. For my quizzes, I try to do just all of them still short, open, you know. Sorry, this is my practice test. Yeah. I don't know why it says quiz. It should be a practice. Oh, yeah. So it's a practice test for the Unit 5 test. Okay. So you notice that they're all open-ended. So you'll see that all my practice tests, they all have to write it in. So there was an algebra. Here's another algebraic one. See, subtracting, multiplying. So these practice tests are all what? They're all open-ended. So I think that really helps students. Now, the geometry ones, you can see they're the same sort of way. Write all these notation. What's the notation of a line? You see how it says English? I've had a practice test in Spanish version too. They have to do all of these notations to start. So we can do some notations just to remind you guys about some geometry. But again, all my practice tests mirror the tests. You can do yours different if you want to make it harder. This is line DC. This is line segment MC. This is ray LR. This is angle. You can name it by the vertex. Reflect of point B of the line y equals x. Translate the triangle ABC 3, 4, 3, and 4 below left. So I'm assuming it's 3 left and 4 below. So that's just a bad question. I would put this here: 3 left and 4 below. Probably because I try to translate it back to English. Rotate this around the origin 270 degrees. This is notation for parallel, this is for perpendicular, and that is congruent. So they're all open-ended questions. They're fun, spinning points, things like that, translations, reflections, trying. There's a ton here. So the tests were pretty hard, but I would give is a 40-question test. All right, let's keep going. So another geometry practice test, one that I didn't convert back to English. They usually look way neater. Here's surface area and volume, stuff that we've learned. There's some probability in here. These are some surface area questions, surface area and volume questions. So again, mostly open-ended, all open-ended for the practice test. The test themselves, here's a Spanish one. So you can see how poor my Spanish is. So name the angle, describe 1 and 2. Angle 1 and 2, they're adjacent. So it's A. Naming this would be ABC. So it's B, or angle 2. Yeah, so 90 degrees around the origin. So notice that the difference, this is the same test, but in English. Ta-da. So feel free to look through these. They're pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy about them. And I obviously wanted to give you an algebra test as well. If you want more, I have a million tests for pre-algebra, a million tests for algebra, algebra 1, geometry. I've got tests for all of them, so you just got to ask for it. Order them from least to greatest, which statement's false, plot the point, you know. So I got tons of tests. That's just a pre-algebra test. Try to make it as varied for both classes. So after they take their test, these are good. These are really good. So these reflection guides are my most downloaded piece. Students tell me their score. Are they happy or not with their score? And in at least 10 words, write why or why not. What do they need help with? How are they getting this help? Looking over their assessment, what are you confident about? What topics would you like to learn? So this is meta-analysis. This is students really reflecting and assessing their own performance. Now, what do I get? After they do this, students rate how useful everything was, whether it was the guided notes I did, the quizzes and the exit tickets. They made rims for their circles. I had them design their own rims for their car. We did a history review on circles and we did vocabulary. Now, if they all hate vocabulary and say it didn't help and wrote me a reason why, we wouldn't do vocabulary. If they hated the guided notes, I wouldn't do guided notes anymore. If they hated doing the projects, I wouldn't do the projects. Every class is different. Every student is different. Treat them different. How'd I get them to fill this out in my really tough public school? They got half credit for every point they corrected as long as they give me the number, the original answer, the correction, and explanation why they did it. So all of these things were really useful for students. It's my most downloaded thing besides their score tracker. I should have put their score tracker here as well. So here, let me get their score tracker. I think that's what I called it. Oh, sorry, I got to go into my drive. Yeah, personal score chart. Doesn't matter which one it is. I've made a ton of these. So students after every test, well, one, they draw their line for their ideal score, whether it was a 36 on their ACT or 100% in their class. And then they would color in how much they got. Oh, they draw the line for what they wanted to score. So they had to be over this line because this is enough for a scholarship. So let's say they wanted to go to UCLA nursing program. That'd be at 30. So they got to make it to 30. And every time they took a test, the first color would be what they got, and the second color would be with corrections. First color. And a good thing about this, let's see the one for Math 130. Yeah. Oh, so it's the same. I don't know why it's the same. But I've done it where I've changed this to be all the different units. So when the final comes, they know exactly what unit. Let's say it was parallelograms that they bombed. That's where they got to focus for their final. So these score charts are this and the reflection guide are my most downloaded because I can see how many times people download the stuff, are my most downloaded piece. So we'll say this reflection, and we'll also put score chart. And it's really cool because students get to, at the end, see if they hit their goal, see what stuff they know, what stuff they don't know. So that's really good personal reflection. So both of these are metacognition, where students are learning about how they learn the best. All right, so, also one more thing I forgot for the practice test. I usually use slides, like where it has everything worked out for them. So they review it, and these are slides, and we do all of them together. So every student knows exactly what kind of questions they're going to see on the test, so there's no surprises. You could also use Jeopardy labs, which is great. I've made tons of Jeopardy, but here's a Jeopardy labs. This one that I made, I think so. So yeah, I made this one. Solving an equation, solving exponents. And then you could put the team names and how they did. Solve for X. So I've made some of these, but the good thing about Jeopardy labs, here, let me put this in here for you. Is you can change it. You can change any one of these Jeopardy labs you want. So let's say we hit escape. You just go to this is to play it, but if you just go to regular Jeopardy labs, you can create or change one or do whatever you want. You can find one. So let's say we want to do pre-algebra. It's just a fun way to review. And I've got buzzers, I've got everything. So Then you can see a little preview of them, but you can change them to math rocks. Okay, so they're pretty easy. These are easy. So I don't know. Oh, sorry. So you can edit. This is what I mean. So you can edit. Do you know the password? No. If no, you just have to create one and you clone it. So this person doesn't want people messing with it, but as long as you clone it, you can edit it. So you're making another version of it so you can change it as much as you want. That's a really good thing about Jeopardy Labs. All right, let's keep on keeping on. All right, so here's some tests. Here's a proficiency test. I think this I probably could have used for your final, but I made yours already. So, ta-da. Everything about this, because this goes up, so proficiency exam goes up to like sixth grade math. So that's pretty much what you're tested. So everything on this is useful. Here's your exam. Here's some questions. They're all pretty easy. And then they get a formula sheet, and this is it. So I use these for my proficiency class when I had to teach math proficiency. So I just gave them all old practice exams, and that was every test. Here's I think we already did this, but if we didn't, yeah, I think we looked at the geometry test in Spanish. Sorry, I got a little confused. So, all right, we're up to here. So here's a final review. So you can use old tests if you want. You would have them look at their score chart. You can make one. Here's a really good one. So this is the final exam review I made for my algebra course. I thought it wasn't going to be too hard to show you because it has everything. Okay, so this algebra 2 review is pretty much every algebra piece that'd be useful. I know you have to solve questions like this. I know you have to solve questions like this. I know you have questions like this. So if you want to try this one, it'd be a really good thing to see how much algebra you know up until functions. So here's where it stops. 15, I guess, is where it becomes a little too much for you. Well, if not, you can try it. This is real, integer. These are all the different types of numbers you have. But yeah, if you want to try some of these, you don't have to do the divisions, but simple division you can. This is called synthetic division. This is long way division. But it's basically every type of question my students would get. And we'd go over all of them together. And what do some finals look like? So here's an actual final I gave back in 2015. You can see what are the three undefined terms of geometry. That is a point, line, and plane. What is congruent? What is the proper notation for a line? This is a perpendicular bisector. This is rotation around the shape. So this is an actual test. Has tons of questions and then the answers at the end. Here is an algebra final that I didn't make. This is the second semester final for just regular algebra. So as I said, I have tons of it. I have pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, pre-calculus, and tons of calculus stuff. I know we're talking 6th, 7th, 8th grade, so that's mostly pre-algebra and algebra 1 and beginnings of geometry. But if you want more questions, harder stuff, feel free to just ask. Matchings are always good, but there's an exam. All right. So that was everything about summative assessments with types. Just remember when you're doing summative assessments, think about a week, think about a month for a week quiz, a month test, or a year-long final exam. I hope that was useful. And if you have questions, just reach out.